I want to welcome Roy English, aka Jagwar Twin, to the In My Feels podcast. He's an amazing singer, songwriter, record producer, has a ton of records out, and I would say pretty much on the cusp of a spiritual guru too. I know you host like meditation sessions and spiritual stuff, and pretty much what we talk about on the show. And Roy hit me up on Instagram. I mean, I've known Roy for quite a while through music channels, and he signed to Sony TV, which is where I used to work. And he sent me a beautiful message, just and it really resonated with me, so I invited him on the show. And how we usually start, Roy, is thoughts, feelings, emotions on the inside create your outside exterior. So how are you feeling right now?
Right now, it's so funny. Normally, doing something like a podcast or even just like talking to people in general, there's like this sense of like social anxiety, like what am I going to say? Do I have anything to say? And it's so funny feeling and seeing your emotions bloom and then where they kind of come from. It's like for much of my life I have felt like I have nothing to say, so why would anyone want to talk to me? And kind of tracing that back in the last few years of like, wow, creating that reality in my life has led me, for a long time in a direction that I didn't really want to be going. But then realizing that it's just like, well, when you just tell the truth, you have nothing to worry about it. And so that's what I'm feeling now, is just this like sense of kind of like joy being here with you. And it's like, let's talk and let's have a conversation about some cool stuff.
And for me, that's what life is about. I've I mean, that's why I'm happy you're on the show, because I feel like I can super dive in spiritually on some certain aspects. But it's funny you said that, because a ton of people, I mean, I've invited a ton of artists on the show. Most of them have said no, probably because of the fact that they're kind of scared of what they'll say.
Say the wrong thing, and then it's
I'll say
like
the wrong thing, yeah.
or whatever, and it's like, let's stop that, like this whole cancel thing. Let's see what the person's trying to articulate, and that's the beautiful thing about speech and having a conversation, is you might say something that's dumb or wrong or straight up wrong, and having that conversation though then allows you to be like, oh man, I got to rethink that, I was off, and the person on the other side of the conversation can maybe point that out.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I've known a ton of artists who have, quote unquote, this canceled culture by saying the wrong thing. And because me, I step back. I'm not into politics. I don't know what's going on in the outside world. I don't watch the news. I'm kind of solely focused on the people around me and exactly what's in my zone, and more focused on solutions rather than the actual issue. But I mean, that whole cancel culture for me is horrible. Like, even the comments I see, someone will say a bad thing or a thing that they aren't really educated on. So instead of bringing the kind of solution and education, it just this downward spiral. And, it puts me into a perspective of like, how is society and what are we doing here? Like, what's the overall goal of us as humans on this planet? And, we're not separate from nature. We are nature itself. So that's obviously the main thing. But yeah, for me, it's just, it puts me in such a deep space or depressed space that I don't operate like that anymore. I can't do it. I don't watch it. I completely remove myself from it. And even, in music, it's like this whole rat race of, we have to have a hit. We have to have this. We have to have that. And as I've removed myself from that, it's coming a lot easier for me, because I'm not stressing about the rat race. I'm letting the rat race go, but knowing the fact that for me, there's enough in the world for everyone.
Yes, it's abundance. And you see, like, where is this kind of we've seen recently, like, there's so much division, like, and everyone sees it and feels it, and it's almost like, even if you're on the say, well, I guess everyone is going to think that they're on the right side, not in the terms of right or left, but like the correct side. I had an interesting conversation with a friend around this, and they saw like they were driving along the freeway, and there was a sign, and it said, some terrible thing, that shouldn't maybe be out in public. And I don't remember exactly what it said, something racist or whatever. And they were like, are so angry, and rightly so. But then what they proceeded to do was then take a picture of that as they were driving, blast it on social media, and then like write this really hateful thing about whatever. And it's like there is a time to be angry, and there's lots to be angry about, but also the solution is not to then put more anger out into the world, or then people who rightfully so feel this like, oh my gosh, this is so wrong, and it is wrong, but are then putting that negative energy back out into the world, reflecting it back to the person it started from. Because the person who wrote that sign, we don't even know who that person was. And then all of a sudden it grows and grows and grows. And it's like there's a mechanism to that where then things can be overturned and changed. And I think we're seeing that too. But it's like being very careful of how we let our emotions drive things, and letting them be in solution based and internal. How do I change my internal stuff? How do I look at the world now and go, wow, there are a lot of things I need to work on and see, and I never saw this perspective before. Now I need to look at that, and where does that exist inside of myself? But it's such a hard line. I feel like.
Hmm. I think the majority of it is I mean, an example is, we recently, COVID has been everywhere. I haven't been consumed by it, so I don't, I just recently learned that LA, I guess, is opening back up because I've seen people at restaurants and stuff. But I wouldn't know otherwise. And apart from the people in the UK, which have it bad, and we had some family members who recently passed from COVID. And you see, you have to be strong. That's kind of the key. You have to, during grief, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I'm like, the whole point in being human is to feel, and is to allow those feelings to come in and pass through you. The difference between the consuming and attracting that extra to you, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about, if you feel grief, feel it 100%. Don't fight it. That's where the stress and the anxieties come from. If you feel something, just feel it. If you feel love, feel it 100%. If you feel anxious, that's okay too. Feel it.
Yes.
Question it.
That feeling is so freeing. I mean, I just recently went through a breakup, and it was like this, it was a girl I thought I was going to marry and have a family with, and it was out of nowhere, out of the complete blue. And it was so interesting, over the past few years, just diving into learning about myself. That's truly like what I'm like, who am I, what, and what am I made of, what am I capable of, and who am I in relationship to others. And there's so much of along the path of knowing that, of like, well, this other person, any other person, but it's but even more apparently in a romantic relationship, it's like that is a reflection of me. And so when this person goes, I need to go out and explore and live this journey, and you've lived so much life and you've done so many things, and I haven't done that yet. It was this kind of like, it was this test of being like, okay, I need to practice what I preach and see this person as myself, as myself looking back at myself, and her expansion will be my expansion. Whatever happens in the future, I know that it's good. And but it's not this blocking off of emotions. Like, I don't feel sadness anymore. It's like I felt deep sorrow, man, like weeping. And I felt like I was losing, like so many things came up, like in the silent spaces that I created afterwards, and in my meditations, of like I felt like I was losing a family member. Like, and I saw my mom and my dad, and like, whoa, they're not going to be here forever, and nobody's here forever. None of us are here forever. So what I found in that time was, wow, I feel such deep sadness. And then, okay, if emotions are indicators of things, so what is the indicator? Well, it's an indicator. There's polarity in everything. So this is, say, a negative polarity. Well, what's the positive polarity? Wow, I experienced a great love. I experienced so much great joy. I lost who I was for so many years. And even when we met, I was completely lost and twisted and backwards, and pursuing music, but from a place of, I wanted to be validated, I wanted to be successful. I was writing lyrics that I thought other people would want to hear, writing songs I thought other people would want to hear. And it wasn't just like, what is my true expression? Who am I? How do I talk? Like, I was embarrassed of my speaking voice. I was embarrassed of the way I looked. Like, all these crazy irrational things. But this person who became in a relationship with for, 4 or 5 years, saw like my inner child and was like, this isn't who you are. And she lovingly like helped me to see who I was again. And it was like, this breakup was, wow, I remembered who I was again through this, and now they're going and I'm going, and we're on these two different paths. But I'm so thankful and blessed that our paths collided, and every person we interact with like can be that, even if it's just someone at the grocery store and you look at them in the eyes like, wow, like you're a part of me, because everyone's a part of everyone. And learning from that, and especially in like deep sorrow and sadness, anxiety and depression, like things that I've so much struggled with, especially in the past, like so deeply, where like there were moments of like I just couldn't go to the grocery store because I just didn't want anyone to look at me or talk at me. Like, that's, looking on that, I'm like, why? And a lot of it, at least for me, what I've unpacked is like really not knowing who I am. But anyway, like with the relationship, just feeling like these emotions, any emotions are indicators of something on another side. And I think there's so much freedom in that, but still allowing yourself to feel that sorrow
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
important.
I mean, that was beautiful. I mean, in terms of, because everyone who's listening to this show or has suffered some form of heartbreak, so can completely relate. I know when I went through it, I was in a relationship for so long, and then it ended, and then you're like, well, again, like, who the fuck am I? Because this is where a point where I wasn't really living my truth. You're living for that person. You're kind of changing who you are for them, just as they're probably changing who they are for you too. And then it's just like, whoa, it's that silence of yourself. But now I can look back because I like who I am now, like, to a point where I'm starting to really love who I am and who I'm becoming. So therefore, I love every good or bad thing that's ever happened to me. I love, every single situation, whether I perceive it as good or bad, because I wouldn't want, if one of those situations wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of it. We're born into circumstances to learn, but nothing is predetermined. The people, spiritually speaking, the people you're born with, you have, agreements with, the mom, the dad, the brother, the sister, whoever, to be in contact, but nothing is predetermined. You can change your future now.
Yes.
And I love that you brought that up. And it's funny, when I was heartbroken, I listened to a ton of depressing music because I kind of realized back then, and I mean, I was 25, which I felt like a baby then. It's like 11 years ago. And it made me emote so deep and so intense that I feel like it went away quicker.
Oh yeah, man, I was just blasting Coldplay in my kitchen, crying with my headphones on, just like, ugh. But like,
I'm a
that's
Damien Rice man. So that was like,
guys, yes.
that was like the depressive times.
Yes, man. I mean, Coldplay has some triumphant themes in there
Oh
too,
my God.
but it's emotion.
Piano. Yeah. The emotion.
The-
Um, So I just want to take it back a little. Where did it all start for you? Music, in a sense, like, where did that start from you? Where did your energy lean towards that, or the focus, should I say, or both?
I think music, and really any creative path. Like, I'm just seeing so much now that there are really ways to, I would say, like, for people to expand their consciousness, or even just like beyond that, it's just like to know themselves. And everyone's kind of higher self has this like, hey, if you do it this way, you can probably learn a lot. And it's not necessarily about the success or the thing. Like, the thing is not really the thing. um I mean, when I was when I was really little, I really wanted to be an actor. Um, like I'm talking like 5 or 6, like really, really little. Um, and this is something that I unpacked recently, um, doing kind of like shadow work. And with shadow work is kind of like where you go into those dark places of yourself. I'm sure you know about this, but for people listening, you go into these dark places, sort of like your subconscious, where there's good things, but there's also bad things that you've kind of hidden away. And looking at these, sometimes they're past traumas or lies you believed. But for me, I was in a meditation and I saw this so clear, and I hadn't thought about it for a long time. But when I was about 5 or 6, I really wanted to act. And my parents, there was like a ballet class, or they just told me it was a dance class. And my mom was like, well, if you want to act, like maybe you should learn how to dance. And I was like, yeah, like so stoked, so happy. I had my little blonde bowl cut. And then so I went out, I bought my tights, I bought my tap shoes, I bought like, the whole get up. And I was so excited like to dance because I love dancing around the house and singing and whatever. And so I started going to ballet class and I loved it. I loved it so much. And I didn't realize that I was the only boy in the class until, a few weeks went by, and then the little girls in the class started being like, you're not a real boy. Why are you even here? And
Good.
then I was like, wait, what? And it was a small private Christian school, and even within there was like, some of the parents maybe were like, oh, he shouldn't be here. And my parents were not that way at all. My parents were like, do what you want. But anyway, it came to a point where I went home one day to my mom and I said, I'm never going to dance again. And I don't want to act. And my mom was like, she's like, I was heartbroken, but she's like, I'm not going to force you to do it. So I didn't do it. But what was so interesting about that is, for most of my adult life, I didn't dance because of that. And I didn't know why. Like even into my late 20s, when like I would just go to, some place where dancing was occurring, I'd be like,
Oh, you were one of those guys.
yeah, like nod the head, like, and I didn't know why. And even with acting, I said like, I'm never going to act. I'm not, and whatever. But my point with all that is my higher self, or whatever you want to call it, right, was kind of like, well, there's this thing, music, which you can also know yourself if you go down, and that will also be a path to get you. And I think there's infinite paths to get you to knowing yourself. And I think the creative world, to do anything creative well, you have to know yourself, and you have to like um be truthful with who you are, because if you're not, people have a bullshit meter, man. I've made so much bullshit, like just being honest, whether that was for others or for myself. And like, people know. And I don't feel like you really can make it as a true artist without doing something that matters to you, and like really, really believing that it matters to you. And it can be anything, like if you're a true expression and you're going to the club and you're like having fun there, and you're going out and having sex with a bunch of people and drinking, and like, that's cool, that's fine. If that's what you're really doing and that's what you want to express, do that. And if that's who you are. But if you're not doing that and then you're singing about doing that, there's going to be a really strange disconnect, and people aren't going to believe it. But like, in my expression, that's not really what I gravitated towards. And that doesn't even mean that that's wrong or bad or whatever. That's just not what my expression is gravitated towards. So singing about things now that are like that, I really feel passionate about these things, has been such an unlock of telling the truth. And what is the truth? What is the truth from my lens, from my perspective? Because everyone has their own perspective also. And it's so important that we see and value everyone's unique perspective. And especially if everyone, and I see this happening, beginning to tell the truth more from their own perspectives. It's so important, because that's how we see, like, the truth is like a sphere. It's not one-sided or two-sided. It's a sphere, and you have to have everyone's lens to see to see the whole thing. That's why a conversation like this is so beautiful, because it's like we're coming at it from different angles, from different places, from different walks of life, but like we're co-creating every moment. And the conversation with anybody else on the different side, it's going to go in different directions. Even if I just talk the whole time, I would still talk differently because your consciousness is linked with mine, and vice versa. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And also another tangent. I don't remember why we started talking about this, but
Yeah, but that's the beauty in it. I mean, it's open conversations and it's honest. You know, it's truthful, and that's how I live my life now. And it's funny you said that about the dancing thing, because we've all experienced that in some form of life, whether it's any other situation, it could be anything. You know, and for example, you know, the parents or the children, it's their own insecurities within themselves projecting on you. And my only advice for anyone now who's, you know, because we all live in an opinionated world, and, you know, opinions can resonate with us, even though we try hard not to, is other people's opinions of you is not your business. It's their own, and it's only their own reflections. And it's funny you said about you wanted to be an actor, sorry. My earliest memory of wanting to do something was I wanted to be a Chippendale.
wow.
Yeah, which is like, and you just sparked that memories, because I never knew what I wanted to do forever. Like, never. I mean, no one really knows, you know, if I did know, I'd be there. And I remember, I think it was because my mom was a single parent with 5 kids. So I was raised by my mom. So I have a distinct and innate respect for women. You know, when I used to go out to clubs and bars, if it was a one night stand, it would be like we were in a relationship for that one night. You know, if it fizzled out, that's fine. But there was a respect there. So very early on, you know, in the playground, kids being very early, my earliest memory, I've always had like a girlfriend. And, you know, those type of kids would be like, you know, oh, you know, oh, you've got a girlfriend. And some kids would be like, ooh, no, girls, no. I was like, yes, absolutely, that's me. And I remember it came on the TV like an advert for Chippendales, and I saw these guys, muscle men, and all these women like flocking to them. And I was like, I want that.
That's me.
That's me. And I was like, wow, you just sparked that memory. And I was like, wow. But it was a fun memory. It wasn't like you know, and then after a few, you know, a year or so, you're like, actually, this isn't for me. I'm going to go a different route. I want to dive back in on kind of the music aspect, because I've seen you grow, and I've seen you spiritually grow, emotionally grow, you know, truthfully grow. And you're right, you know, as a songwriter, you know, you wear a different hat to, you know, you as an artist, which is okay. You know, I know so many songwriters who want to write for other people and specifically write what they think the person would hear. And usually anyone who's trying to get into songwriting, I would say the majority of the hits, unless you're like Max Martin, who works on a song for like forever, majority of hits that I know that come from people is usually when they write it like super easy. There's not a stress. There's not a struggle. It's like, oh, I wrote that in 30 minutes. Never thought it was going to be a hit. And then boom. Because it's not, you know, it's like let me put it into perspective. If I think about someone and then they send you a text or they call you, you're like, oh, that's an unresisted thought. I wonder what that person's doing. There's no resistance to that. And now put into perspective how much resistance you actually have towards daily things, whether it's getting up in the morning or going to sleep at night, or, you know, going in the office or doing this work or taking that meeting or there's resistance towards everything. And me as a person now, and I'm trying to teach everyone else to unravel that resistance, let it go.
Yes. Yes, that's so big. And the resistance, like it's almost like unraveling that resistance is like a building your trust with yourself, because it's like even something so small, like if you say I'm not going to eat chocolate today, and then you eat chocolate, it's like, well, I can't trust myself. And it's so tiny, but it's like there are these little tests of like building that resistance. Like I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to work out every day. And then if you do that, it's like you build trust in yourself. And the more you do that, it's like the less resistance you find, and then the greater the task or the job or the creation. Let's just say creation, right? Because everything is creation. A conversation is creation. Of course, writing a song is a creation, but like you're creating with every breath, and there is resistance with everything. But building the trust with yourself, I think, is so important, especially in those little things. It's kind of like your idea of God or the universe or whatever name you choose to call it. It's like in some ways maybe uh, the way we think about that source, God, is reflected in the way we think about ourselves. So if, like, I know people who are like, uh, God is like terrible, or the universe is terrible and everything is bad and unjust. And you're like, well, yeah, but you're like lying to people and you're doing this. And so it's like you're the reflection of that. And it might not always be the case. Um, but there's evidence of that. Like the way you view the world around you is a reflection of your inner world. And I really believe that to be true. And even if you look at like, I'm definitely not one to be talking about quantum physics because I don't know much. But in the quantum field, it's like there's one consciousness and we're all linked. And it's like now that's like a science. Um, and you're like, well, what the implications of that are nuts. Like you said, like when you're thinking about someone and they text you, but that happens to everyone all the time. And then we're like, oh, coincidence. But it's like, when are we going to start to think like this is not
Yeah.
a coincidence?
Yep. And it's funny because you actually tweeted that. I actually wrote it down. We are constantly creating with every breath, every word, action. And it's funny because factually, that's true. I mean, literally, your breath changes the atmosphere for everyone. And that's
Yes.
just a fact. Let alone, our encounters, our attractions alter the fabrics of their lives as well as your life.
Yes.
It's like your thoughts are as active as your cells. And it's important, and it maintains your physical being. And it's funny because when you say about, I struggle with this whole notion of, I used to, sorry, with food. I came to LA, I became vegan, all that type of stuff. And I became ill. I got severe headaches. I got all that type of stuff because it was me procrastinating on the food. I can't eat that because of this. And then when I'm eating the vegan stuff and stuff I would make, it wouldn't satisfy my soul. It wouldn't satisfy me as a person, which would make me feel ill. So it's not necessarily about what I'm consuming. It's my frame of mind while I'm consuming it. Another example, my wife and I had a couple of drinks this weekend and we ordered some takeout. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to fucking enjoy this takeout. My body needs it. I'm craving it. And after I ate, I was like, yes, that's great. Because I'm aware of what I'm putting into my body. I thanked what I was eating. I was like, thank you for this. And I woke up not bloated, none of that type of stuff. Everything felt great. And I realized how much procrastination we do over even the simplest things like food.
Yes. And allowing yourself to enjoy things too is so important. Like if you get so rigid in it, you may suffer, like you're talking about.
Absolutely. So, I want to do a little bit of music things like on how do you feel about comparisons? Because I'm sure you get it a ton. Are you like who or
Depends
on the comparison?
what are we comparing? Apples and oranges?
It's funny because the reason why I say it is because I usually do a section on comparisons and uniqueness. So, for example,
Let's do it.
someone's always comparing themselves to something else.
Uh-huh.
When factually, there is only one of you or me in the whole entire universe. So we are the most unique beings that exist, as is every single one and every single plant, every single animal, everyone is different. And that's the message I want to put across, this whole uniqueness thing, because people don't value themselves or don't see themselves. And this is the whole point of In My Fields is, you are value. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Everyone's searching for a meaning, whether it's, if I have that hit or if I have this money in the bank or if I have this or I have that, strip that all back. The meaning is you.
Yes. I mean, that's it, man. The meaning is you. And the comparison thing is so uh deceptive because like you said there is only one of you, and I think I fell into this for a lot of years, especially early on being an artist, and even not that, and a few years ago, just a few years ago, like um comparing myself to, especially others around me. It was like there's one point where I felt like all of my closest friends were like so successful and they had these things that I always wanted. And it's like, why am I not that? Why am I not there? It's like I'm getting older, and you have to make it when you're like 18, or else you're uh cast out of the industry, or whatever these things are. And kind of stepping back and being like, wait a minute, what's the truth behind this? And the truth is that, one, there is no comparisons. And then what I started to see in myself was, your story is so awesome, dude. And the fact that it took you this long, and you had to figure all these things out and unravel these parts of your psyche, it's like, it's beautiful. I know I have a beautiful story to tell, and through music, um, can tell that story. Um, but it does, I feel like, for everybody, have to start with losing the comparison of yourself to others, because so many times, like, oh, I want to make a song like artist of the moment, throughout years, or oh, I want my voice to sound like this, or I want, whatever. And it just puts you into a hole where, again, that bullshit meter comes back out when people hear it and they go, I think they're trying to be like this. And it's not going to work, because you're you. But if you do you, whether it's music or not, like, a conversation is even the same way. And maybe even more profound than just a conversation or simple social interactions, where, like, if you're being you in that interaction, people will gravitate towards you. Like, you become I always said, you become a sun, where you have this gravitational pull around you, and people go like, oh, like, I can be free because this person's free and they're smiling, or whatever your expression is. Like, some people are just naturally like serious and so cool and whatever, and then people are drawn to that. But, like, for so long I tried to be cool. I feel like cool has been the death of so many artists, and the death of so many people, not physical death, but just like, it's this wall in this shell. And it's like, I'm not cool at all. Like, but in doing that, that makes someone cool when they know that they're not cool. And I think that's the beautiful thing. Like, what is cool? I guess I would say warm is
Yeah.
more that I would like to use.
It's funny because when you step back from everything, you can kind of visualize everyone on a neutral plateau. And you kind of see, from people's Instagrams or whatever's going on, everyone's out there chasing greatness. I'm out here chasing ordinary. I'm chasing the path of least resistance. I am no longer in a rush but you're right. As this whole artist notion, you have to be a young artist. No one wants to sign someone who's over the age of so-and-so. And I'm like, but there are artists, very successful artists, who are a lot older and who have been doing it for many, many years. And they have a way of doing it because of the expectation that what they expect is in their universe. I want to dive in a little bit on, because I feel like I can go there with you, like thoughts on life after death.
Oh, let's go, baby.
Firstly, our beliefs, our expectations, our thoughts, feelings, emotions, create everything in life as well as in death.
Yes.
Whether that is the way you die, or the attraction to death, or the attraction to the ill health, or the attraction to any of that. If you truly believe in manifestation and magic, you have to believe in all aspects of it. The good, the bad, the ugly, you as a person, the things you want, the things you don't want, all that type of stuff. So yeah, I would love to know what your beliefs, and just tap into a little bit of that.
Well, I do believe that, we are never born and never die. We take on a physical body for this experience, and we learn a bunch and then keep going. And I also believe that, like, everything is in your mind, meaning like the whole universe, but it's in all of our minds collectively. Such a big question to unpack.
It's a big one. I mean, even for me, I'm pretty practical in terms of spiritual. I'm not going to be meditating on top of, a mountain with eagles flying around or any of that type of stuff.
Oh, I might do that.
Literally, me too, actually. I've started doing this 21-day meditation. I never, to be honest, I started meditating to get to help my mind quieten. And now my mind is eerily quiet. I'm like, this is great. My wife and I started this 21-day meditation challenge with Deepak Chopra. It's called the 21-day meditation of abundance. And I mean, I live in abundance anyway because there's enough of everything for everywhere. And abundance doesn't necessarily mean just money. It's health, it's food, it's water, it's everything you can imagine. There's plenty of it. And it's funny because now when I haven't meditated for about a year previously to this because I actually like where I'm at. I don't want to alter any of that yet. I'm still learning about myself. I'm diving into myself. And I didn't want to go too far into myself because I want to explore where I'm at right now. And then once I've had my fill, then I'll start opening up the gates again. But I feel like now I'm opening up the gates of my inner self. So I started doing it and I'm on day 6. And it's like, it's little tasks of like writing down the things you want. And now I've started writing down the things because I never used to, because we as humans have about a million different focuses. There's a million things I want. So now I've started doing, for example, my company, I focus on the company name, and all the little focuses of that all feed into that. So I know that that's my one focus. And the meditation has been amazing. I'm like, there's 15 minutes. And then I usually, when our baby goes down at 2:00, we have like a good 55 minutes to figure out our whole lives. And in that time, we can fit in the meditation of 20, 30 minutes. And, you listen to Deepak, you do the meditations, and then I'm gone. I'm not asleep. I am like in between that state of sleep and awareness, but I cannot describe to you where I'm at. And I feel like, that, which leads to my next point, as well as the life after death, is the dream state. Dream state, for me, prepares you for death. It's like why we can't remember dreams or fully remember dreams is because our waking consciousness, our brain, cannot handle that.
Yes.
Our mind can, which is why when we're asleep, you jump and then you're like, whoa, you jump super high, you come back down, or you're flying or doing some shit. You can't really remember the inner details but as a period of time. It's because wakingness, your brain will explode if you could remember all that. So for me, the dream state prepares you for death, and that's kind of what it's going to be like, So I've read so many stories of near-death experiences and people who come back, they feel untold love, and all the whole strip is gone. I can see, but I have no eyes. I can hear, but I have no ears. I can speak, but I have no mouth. And every single one is tailor-made to them. No one is the same. They all have the same characteristics because of beliefs are pretty set amongst society. But I read one story of a guy who was conflicted. He was raised Jewish, but then started falling in love with the kind of Islamic text. So he was conflicted between the two religions. So when he passed over and came back, he saw something that resonated with both. And when he came back, he was like, whoa, they're kind of all similar.
Yes.
They all touch upon the same thing. So, some people who are Catholics, they go and come back. They're like, oh, Christ spoke to me. It was a light. Or, other things. So it is your belief it's also the attraction to death. That is you anyway, if you believe in manifestation. But also when you die, it's also the belief that you take into that afterlife.
Yeah. I think it's like touching on, okay, you have your conscious and your subconscious mind, and it's like the realm of the subconscious when you go to sleep, or in a really deep meditation. It's like it begins to communicate with you. It's like the language of emotions and feelings, because you can see things, but you're not seeing with your eyes. You can hear things, but you're not seeing with your ears, and you can taste things, but like you're not there. And I think that's so beautiful about sort of the work of like balancing all things, right? It's balancing your subconscious lower mind with your conscious mind, balancing your masculine. You could say masculine would be the positive, meaning like positive charge, like a battery, and the feminine would be negative, receptive charge, like a battery. And it's balancing those two elements. It doesn't matter if you're male or female in this physical body, in this density. It's like we all have both in us, and then balancing the both is so important. And because like, in your subconscious mind births everything. So whatever you believe in your conscious mind and you set out and you think in your existence here is great. But then what you truly believe within that subconsciously is what becomes birth and then shows up in your actual physical reality every single day. So it's like before you go to sleep every night or before you go into a meditation, make sure that you really feel the feeling of what you want to experience and the life you want to have, and the emotions, because the feeling is what gives birth, is what allows the subconscious mind to give birth, because everything is mind. So when you're saying it's like, well, when you die, you go back into your mind essentially, or the mind, which is all our mind, but it's also tailored to your individuation of we're also a spirit, an individuated spirit right now. And then as we progress, through different densities and levels, we get back to oneness. Eventually we all come back together as one, and we see it all, and we see, oh wow, this was all this beautiful play, this beautiful drama. But I do think it's so important to balance both the energies, the masculine and feminine, the positive and negative, the conscious and the subconscious, because that allows you to truly create your reality.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why, the whole reincarnation is real, all that type of stuff. My question for you is, would you come back?
I think so. I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation as it's traditionally understood, though.
Yeah.
Meaning like you take on another physical body. I think that maybe that can happen, but I'm sort of under the thought right now, and it's like, I don't know, we're all just talking about this, but that you move on and then your spirit can come back and help others, like the bodhisattva idea, um, or progress through the other spiritual planes. But my feeling at the moment is like you come into this physical body on earth with a specific lesson, and you get your soul here, and then the soul keeps progressing. But it's like, well, we've already been through the earth school, so now there's other schools, there's other densities. Maybe it's on a different planet, maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of it. We don't know.
You don't
See,
know. That's,
see,
yeah,
I used
exactly.
to fear the unknown, and it used to scare the shit out of me and all that time. Now I'm like, this is great. I don't know shit.
Yes, I don't know anything. I actually start almost every day with that. I say, I come out of the darkness and into the light. I come with nothing. I empty myself of all things. And then I say, I know nothing. I have nothing. I am no thing. And therefore, I am able to receive all things from the universe and flow them in service to the light. I start out most of my days, like right when I open my eyes,
Fuck yes.
saying that.
I love that.
Because like I am no thing,
Yeah.
man. We put these so many labels on everything. We want to say that this is that and this is that, and that's a fork and that's a frog, and that's, it's like,
Yeah.
uh,
And,
is
and
it
we
a
do
frog?
that to the human psyche too. So, you believe you're something, your beliefs, culture doesn't make people, people make culture. And I
Mhm.
think that's the distinction that people aren't forgetting. So if you feel a certain way or a certain stereotype, which is given to you by someone else, you're going to live your life as that stereotype
Man.
instead of, which brings me on to my next point, actually. The multiverse, because I feel like I can go there with you. Um, you know, we at the soul or entity, is in a constant growth pattern. It's always learning, it's always information, or whether it's us or whoever. If you wasn't doing music, what would you be doing? And the reason why I ask is because if you've put enough energy into something else, whether it's, like you said, you wanted to be an actor, there's probably another multi-dimensional you out there who is doing that, or doing, or any of those type of things. There's plenty of energy that I've put into the universe of other things. So there's another you potentially doing that in the multiverse. I mean, I'd love to dive in on that with you.
I think there's like millions of each of us in millions of multiverses doing different things. For me, acting would have been one of them, definitely. Maybe dancing. Uh, you know what I really wanted to do when I was in middle school is I used to want to be an Egyptologist so badly. I loved ancient Egypt, and I would read books all the time and study them, and I built this clay model of like the Sphinx, like accurate, like it was so good. And I loved Egypt, and like I would watch any movie about Egypt. I love the Mummy movies when
Yeah.
those came out too.
What about
Um,
Ancient Aliens?
Aliens.
Ancient Aliens. You never seen the TV show?
You know what? Ancient Aliens, like that that series was sort of what started me out on the spiritual path in some really strange way.
Me
Well,
too.
not
Yeah.
really in a spiritual path. Like it opened my eyes up to, growing up tr- traditionally Christian, and I always felt like even when I was like a kid and going to church, I was like, I know God's real, and I know this is real, and I was obsessed with like Genesis and Revelation, and I would read them. I was as a little kid, like it's kind of weird, but I was like, there's something in here, and I wanted to code it, and I remember like just weird things with my teachers where um I'd be like, what if this meant this? And what if this actually meant this? And they'd be like, you're crazy. Like, this is just, whatever. Or looking at these maps of like the world. And I was like, I think like at one time, I was like probably 8. I think at one time all the continents were together, and maybe there was like a supercontinent. And my teacher was like, no, God created the earth in 7 earth days, and that couldn't happen. And I was like, wait, what? How does that disprove God? Whatever. But anyway, so I was always kind of like, I felt a connection with God or the universe, and really deeply. But then getting older, it was like, all right, well, but there seems to be a disconnect in like a lot of the Christian um people of where, at least in the place that I grew up, it was like some of the most broken people that I had encountered. And that's not to say anything about that faith. And I truly believe that there are infinite paths and religions to get you to the same place. Like religion means to relink, religio, relink with God. And there's so many ways to do that. But when Ancient Aliens came along, like the first season, I was like, oh my gosh, there's something here. And I got so into it, like where I just like binge watch all the time. And I remember being on tour. It was like 2000, probably 16 at the time. I've been watching it for some time. And I was just on the tour bus, like watching Ancient Aliens. I got all my friends to watch it. And then like my band and everything, we were just watching Ancient Aliens. And it was like there's so much in here, but then I also felt like, well, there's some things that just like don't resonate. Like, yeah, maybe, but like what's really the truth behind all this? What's deeper? Because the answer can't just be aliens for everything. Like what is my responsibility as a human? And you can't just put it all externally. So I got in contact with I got Gaia because of that, and started watching all these other shows on ancient civilizations and things. And then it led me to this show called Mystery Teachings, which is this quantum physicist, Dr. Teresa Bullard, who is so amazing. And she bridged like the science and quantum physics with ancient teachings and spirituality, and there are aliens in there too, but like it was less focused on just conspiracy theory, because that's a wormhole that can be, I feel like, destructive, where yeah, there are some conspiracy things that are true, and but like it can also lead sort of like the reflection against and perpetuate the thing that we're trying to fight against. And so the Dr. Teresa Bullard, I sent her an email after watching her show, because I was so like blown away by, wow, there's so much science behind this. And because she was on the path, she was just a quantum physicist, and then she's like, well, if I take these things to their logical conclusion, it's talking about these old mysteries, and this is how they bridge. And so through that, like she became my guide in a mystery school, and so I've been doing that the last few years, and it's been really cool. But Ancient Aliens, shout out, like
Yeah.
started the whole thing.
It's funny that you said about, conspiracies, because I used to be so into them, to a point where it became an obsession. You're like, no, they're out to get us, all that type of shit.
Get us, yeah,
Yeah. And then I'm like, well, we manifest our whole lives, from the inners to the outs to the everything. Everything in your life is you. You are the master and commander of your ship. So it doesn't matter if there's a conspiracy theory or any of that type of stuff because it's not going to affect you because that's not your manifestation. And I was like, that has no power over me. And I was like, oh, now everyone's like, oh, the vaccine or this or this. I'm like, if you believe or if you know as you take it, it's like, polio. There's no more polio anymore because the vaccination came around. Whether or not the vaccination works or not is two different things. It's the belief system of individuals who take it, who know that they are protected from it. And that's that's how the universe works. And it's funny that the ancient aliens thing is, when you'd see a story and you'd be like, ancient astronaut theorists would say this, and you're like, I wonder who the fuck they are. Yeah. Who the fuck are they? Like, where did you come from? I want to know. I want to have a conversation with you. But
background.
The thing about that, I know some of them are far-fetched, but the point is they open your mind to questions. And, religion for me, for example, when you're reading the Bible and stuff and you're asking questions, they stop those questions. So religion can stop you asking questions, whereas we should always be asking questions. Who are we? Where we come from? This. And it's funny because I haven't really read any religious texts. Jesus was illiterate, didn't write anything. Buddha didn't write anything. Muhammad didn't write anything. These are all written by people after the fact. And for me, I've yet to come across a religion apart from, I had Damien Eccles on, who was on death row for 20 years for a crime he didn't commit. And he follows the religion of a female god. And I remember during trial and they couldn't understand, it was back in the day, it was Arkansas. They couldn't understand who this guy was. And he was just weird because he believed in a female god. And he said, well, we're all children of God, but men can't have kids. Men can't give birth to kids. So it has to be a woman. And I was like, holy shit.
That's great.
Isn't that great? And this is during his death row trial.
Wow. And the fact that he was like, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm on death row. I'm going to tell the truth because this is what I believe. Yeah. That's huge. And that doesn't mean everyone has to believe that.
No. But and he said, this didn't happen to me. It happened for me. Yes. And I'm like, whoa, perspective.
Yes.
We can all get self-depressed and self-emotive. And I was so depressed and anxious and all that type of stuff. And I was like, enough now. This is you. You're doing it. And I understand your situation could be shit, which mine was. All these other things that you resonate and it's just the blame factor. But I was like, enough. And I turned the needle and I said, I'm not doing that shit no more.
Yeah.
I love as well. You tweeted something about that you watched Soul, the film, the Disney film.
Oh my gosh. Documentary.
You said good documentary. And I was like, this is why you're the shit. Because it is. It literally is. It's a great film too.
It was like even some of the same names. It's like nothing. It's just hidden in plain sight. Like, yo, check this out. This is kind of the way it works.
And for me, it was too short.
Yeah, it was too short. There's a few movies like that. Like Soul's one of them. The Matrix is one of them to me. I'm a good documentary.
Yes.
But it's another one that I don't think people talk about enough. And I rewatched it maybe a month or so ago. Pinocchio, dude. Pinocchio is a documentary. It's like, it might even be deeper than like The Matrix and Soul because it goes like, there's so much symbolism in every single scene. They're diving in, man, on Pinocchio.
I never thought of it like that. That's actually super true. It's funny, even The Matrix became such a big film because it resonates with everyone's subconscious. The difference is, when you unplug is when you become aware.
Yes.
I don't necessarily feel, when you're in this, like in The Matrix, you're in the physical form and then you unplug and then it's like this whole negative world that is just out to fucking kill you. I think it's society that you need to unplug from and really dive into you as a person.
Yes.
But it's funny. I mean, I never heard that interpretation of Pinocchio, and it's so true. I want to be a real boy. He wants to become real and wants to become himself. He makes these wishes that come true because he believes them and he knows them for a fact. He goes on this huge magical journey. It's like The Alchemist.
It is so much like The Alchemist.
Yeah.
It is. It's the hero's journey.
Yeah, the hero's journey. And I think it's important for all of us to listen to our inner senses. I mean, I'll tell you a story which I think you'll like this. A boy was constantly scratching his head. His father looked at him one day and said, "Son, why are you always scratching your head?" And the boy said, "Well, it's because I guess I'm the only one who knows it itches."
I love that.
Inner senses.
I love that.
Roy, I mean, I won't keep you too much longer, but honestly, this has been fucking amazing.
Man,
You are the shit.
talk to you.
Yes, sir. I wish you nothing but amazing things. Actually, I wish you everything you want.
Likewise, my friend.